Hi, my name is Noemi, and I'm going to be asking you some questions about your experience at the library. What is your name?
My name is Consuela Larcon, and I'm a first year grad student for the social welfare program.
Awesome. And how often do you come to the library to study?
I come to the library pretty often. I usually go in between classes sometimes and most evenings. And sometimes I go in the mornings as well if I get here earlier and I have a chance to take a little study break before court my classes. Um, yeah.
And where do you choose to study in the library?
Wherever there's space, sometimes there's not a lot of space to study, but I will frequent the basement area just because it's quieter. Sometimes there are less people down there, and the dim lighting is really relaxing. So I usually go down to the basement, and because I am a creature of habit and that's where I typically go, I just continuously go down there.
Nice. And where do you live?
I currently commute. I yeah, I live in Los Angeles, but it is a ways away with traffic. So sometimes in order to avoid the traffic, I go to study in the library just to wait until some of the traffic dies down. Because usually my commute will be it could be anywhere from an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, sometimes more.
Yeah, that is a long time. And can you describe your thoughts of the library as a study space? And being that you do commute, yeah, like why is it that you do study at the library?
I feel it's convenient, like I said, because in order to avoid traffic, I rather use my time wisely and study instead of being stuck in the car for like an hour and a half. I could be studying and just waiting until the traffic dies down a bit. And then also sometimes it could be distracting with roommates. If they're my roommate, she's not going to grad school currently, and so she can be a little distracting sometimes. So I try to stay out in the library and to avoid any other distractions. So I think it's a great place to try to focus and quiet, and then also seeing the other students working is pretty encouraging to continue to work through, because I know I'm not alone in my stress, and seeing other people stress, I feel them, so I think it's a good environment to go and feel supported and encouraged to study.
Yeah, that's great. And how long do you stay in the library when you study?
So if I get to school early in the morning, I typically maybe will be there for 45 to an hour, maybe if I'm early, if I avoid some of the traffic, or during the day, if I have a longer break, maybe like 2 hours in between sometimes, and the majority of the time is the evening, so I'll try to do maybe anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, and unless it's something I need to write a paper or something that takes longer time, I will be there anywhere from 5 to 6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is a pretty good amount of time at the library. And do you feel that you procrastinate in the library?
Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it is because the workload is really hectic and it's stressful. Sometimes a quick little peek at your phone can be very distracting. So yeah, and then which makes you procrastinate on my work. But I try not to, but it is challenging sometimes because a quiet space can also sometimes be boring when you're doing a lot of work and you're bored, and then for a second you want to peek at your phone, and then that ends up into like a 10-minute social media break, which can be really challenging. So sometimes I procrastinate just a little bit.
And so, what study materials do you take to the library when you study? What is it that you usually have in front of you?
Usually I'll have my laptop. Sometimes I'll have books or my notes. Um, and that's about it. That's really the materials that I have in front of me.
Okay, and do you find it hard to focus sometimes in the library?
Yes, like I was previously saying, the library is a great space because it is quiet and you do get motivated by other people, but however, there are so many distractions like my phone or receiving text messages, even glancing at your phone for that 1 second really just derails your train of thought sometimes, and it makes it harder for you to go back into whatever it is that you were reading or analyzing or writing. So it can be very difficult to yeah, I mean, it gets distracting sometimes when it's too quiet. So actually, I do have like also on my phone, I'll put music to try to help me like focus and concentrate. But that also can be a distraction because if I am changing the songs or, however, it is very chill beats. But just even the moment that you like switch the song or check something, it's just like gives you that temptation to check something else or check an email or something like that. Or, so yeah.
So you mentioned that you use your headphones when you're studying in the library and to listen to music. Do you feel that it's effective to listen to music when you study?
For me, it is. It's not necessarily music like with lyrics. It's not necessarily music with lyrics. It is more of like relaxing, mellow, chill beats to help me focus. Sometimes classical music. Sometimes I even listen to nature sounds or anything that can be relaxing because it is a very high stress place. The library is very calming, but it also is stressful knowing that everyone is studying and you should be studying. It's a constant reminder, like you need to work, you need to work, you need to work. So I think I do enjoy, I listen to sounds, I guess, on my phone. And yes.
Okay. And if you don't study if not at the library, where else do you study?
If not at the library, I like to study outdoors if it's a nice day. I like to sit out, if I find some nice chairs somewhere and it's like sunny but there's some shade. I just feel that being out in nature is really relaxing. Like I said, I listen to nature sounds sometimes on my phone when I am studying to keep me calm, because the schoolwork is really demanding. So I do that, or sometimes coffee houses are good, but it's just space. Sometimes there's just no space because everyone's studying as well. But yeah, those are pretty much the spaces I go: coffee house, library, or outdoors somewhere.
Nice. And where do you keep your phone when you study?
I usually keep it on the table. I have it on the table next to me. Sometimes I'll like turn it over so that I don't get any alerts or I don't see them. And that makes me focus a lot more. But yeah, generally it's by my computer, although I try to put it away like in my pocket or something when I'm studying just so I don't have the temptation to look at it. And then help me focus some more, but it can be really hard sometimes, but it's typically on my desk next to my computer. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you feel that using your phone, do you feel that that's related to this generation and how we use phones and just like, yeah, devices in general, like electronic devices? Do you feel that do you feel that that has to do with this generation?
I definitely think so. I mean, we get news and alerts like multiple times per day. I think it is part of the generation, which is it's difficult and makes being able to focus and be present in things a lot more challenging. Which, yeah, I mean, this generation has it really challenging. I mean, I'm part of this generation, so I can see also how it impacts my friends and my peers as well in class. Sometimes they have their phone outs. We'll have our phone out at times next to us when we're in class, and I try to put it away, but I notice everyone all the time has their hand, either they're holding the phone or the phone is on their desk. Like it's really hard for people not to be carrying their phone or receiving messages and alerts. So I definitely think that the phone, electronic, social media, all that is very distracting. So sometimes I've even thought of just deactivating my accounts just to not be having that temptation of checking and looking and being distracted. And social media is also a really it is a distraction, but it's also a way to kind of get your mind off things, which is good. But when you have a lot of deadlines, and that's a way for you to go and de-stress a little bit and see what there is and out there, what's going on, it makes you procrastinate. So I think our generation has it a little tough in being able to focus.
And so overall, do you feel that after everything that we talked about, do you feel that the library is a good study space for you, or not good? What did you think?
I think for me, a library space is a good space. It's quiet. You have access to not only space, but resources, books, and, or online databases. Like, there's just so much you can get in the library. And I think it's positive. It makes me feel better seeing that other people are working just as hard as me, studying and trying to be focused. So I think it's a great place to be able to study. And also I feel like it reminds me of, seeing all those books. Now we have just everything online too, but I think me being physically there at the library with all those books, just, I don't know, it gives it more of it reminds me of like the academic feel of why I'm there. And I just think it's a nice space and reminder of academia. And yeah, I enjoy the library.
Awesome. And then you mentioned that you are in the social welfare department. With that, do you mainly what types of studying do you do? Like, are you usually reading or writing, or what types of studying do you do?
Yes. Well, typically, reviewing lecture notes and things like that, but also we have various articles and books to read on, just social change, social issues. So typically I'm reading tons of articles and books and theories and things like that, and writing tons of papers, and also, different various types of papers. So I'm constantly needing a space to be able to focus and to do all those things. Papers, reading. Lots of reading.
Yeah, and so, and you mentioned that you usually go to Powell, right? To the Powell Library. Is that the only library that you use on campus, or are there others?
I usually do go to YRL as well. I like looking at when I go and look at newspapers and older papers, I think YRL sometimes has this eerie feel to it, I feel sometimes. So I don't necessarily stay and study for too long, but I have gone and studied there before. But yeah, YRL is a good space. Sometimes I sit out in front of YRL just to hang or read a little bit more out there. The sculpture garden is also a really nice space. I enjoy going out there and sitting, and I just think not only the library, but the nature is just, it's a nice space for me to study.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed the interview. And yeah, it was really interesting to find out more about your experience.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Thank you.